Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is the Oneness Podcast. I am Jessica Delmar. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the power of compassion. And if you were to ask me what compassion was maybe 10 plus years ago, I would have a very different response to what compassion was. I would see compassion as more of an emotion. However, in sitting with the energy of compassion, the power of compassion, especially through the Christ consciousness perception or lens, compassion becomes so much bigger than what we initially think it is. It is more than a sympathetic emotion towards another person, place, or thing. Many times in my past, compassion would lead me into deeper states of suffering, especially revolving around things I very much cared about, whether it was animals, the food I ate, the suffering of the world. Compassion would oftentimes lead me deeper into my suffering because of that deep sympathy, because of that deep empathy towards other people, places, and things. However, I'm learning, and this is especially useful for empaths and very sensitive people, is utilizing your compassionate nature, which is so natural for you because you're able to go to those deep places where compassion resides, and utilizing that compassion for empowerment and for amplification of change and momentum towards change. 2023 is a strong year for spiritual activation, especially in the heart space. There's been a lot of spiritual activation in the mind space over the past 5 years, but now we're dropping more into the heart. When energy is pulled into the heart, it activates Christ consciousness. And so if you're able to align to the heart, it will reveal your true nature through this deeper Christ consciousness. And everything in your life is working to support that inner true nature. This is heart-based resonance. When your heart resonates with your external environment, and your external environment resonates with your inner heart. And everything is pulled into your experience from that heart resonance, from the vibration of whatever your heart is holding. And the heart doesn't lie. The heart knows your true intention. Your heart knows your true nature. It has no filter. Even if we have blockages, even if there are blockages in the heart will reflect those blockages for exactly how they are, for exactly what it is. It's our responsibility to see what those blockages are, how they're reflecting back to us, so that we can heal those blockages and allow for our heart to open more. The rhythm of your inner nature must match the rhythm of your outer nature, which is why many people are being called to move. We spoke about moving, relocating, traveling in a previous episode, so listen to that if you haven't already. The earth is assisting with deeper heart-based resonance and harmony. So everything going on in the heart is sifting and sorting. It's trying to show you the blockages. It's trying to show you the limitations. It's trying to show you the love. It's trying to show you your conditions, your unconditional nature, all these things that the heart is trying to resonate and trying to reflect to you is happening more strongly. The thing is it's often hard to hear our heart if we are in our mind space more of the time. The thing that helps pull us more into the heart is grounding. So if you're feeling called to relocate or travel or whatever, being in certain points or places upon the earth is what helps to ground your energy, make you feel safe, make you feel stable, make you feel energetically aligned enough to drop into the heart and listen to the heart and hear the heart and allow the heart to express and see what the reflections of the heart are for you. This is because we're part of a greater body, and our greater body is trying to align and tune itself too. And in order to do so, that greater body shifts the smaller parts of itself. Just like we are a greater body to our cells, and our cells move and flow freely throughout our body to help our body move. It's kind of like if you have a cut, all of the blood cells rush to that cut to try to repair the cut, right? The open wound, to try to heal the open wound. But it requires more energetic concentration of the blood cells working to help heal a part of you. So that's kind of what's happening to the planet as well, and why we're feeling the urge to move, to relocate, to be in a place where we feel more aligned. Because if we feel more aligned, then energetically that has a ripple effect towards the greater body. Because you are not just an individual, but you are also part of a greater whole. And so all of the work that you do as an individual affects the greater whole. If you feel in resistance as an individual, then you are only adding that energetic momentum of resistance to the greater whole. As you work on yourself, as you heal yourself, as you fine-tune yourself, and become more aligned and balanced within yourself, then you add more of the momentum of harmonization towards the greater whole. And this is what we mean when we say that the rhythm of your inner nature must match the rhythm of your outer nature. You are alive and part of a greater body, which is Earth. Your job is to supply Earth with the harmonizing energy that she needs, and her job is to supply you with the harmonizing energy that you need. And together, in that energy exchange, you create a sense of balance, rhythm, and natural instinct that emits through your state of being. So again, dropping into the heart is what reveals your Christ consciousness energy, your Christ consciousness awareness. And there's layers, there's levels of that Christ consciousness. And if you were to ask me what the basis of Christ consciousness is, I will tell you that it is compassion. And compassion envelops all of the other things that we might consider to be Christ consciousness energy. It envelops unconditional love. It envelops acceptance. It envelops hope. It envelops healing. It envelops even forgiveness. It envelops empathy. It envelops caring. Heart-centered compassion asks you, are you ready to face who you truly are? Because if you say yes to that question, the lens of heart-centered compassion will show you who you truly are in everything and everyone that you come into contact with. Compassion is the willingness to see yourself in others and be in the truth of who they are through the lens of who you are. Compassion is not seeing yourself in others and being in the truth of who you are through the lens of who they are, which is often what happens. Again, it's a slight shift. Compassion is the willingness to see yourself in others and be in the truth of who they are through the lens and truth of who you are. On the other hand, compassion is not seeing yourself in others and being in the truth of who you are through the lens and truth of who they are. Compassion can only and ever come from within you. It starts with you, and it leads you through a world which reflects your true nature in everything and everyone around you. Being able to approach everything and everyone from a heart-centered, compassionate space is what allows your heart energy to flow freely while you are both giving and receiving who you are in every moment. Not many people are ready to face that, are ready to face themselves so head on, or so heart on, if you will. Nor do they have the energetic capacity to hold all of this information that the heart is providing you with. So a process of making space must be integrated, which involves intense levels of deep healing and inner work. The heart-centered spiritual activation of 2023 is compassion, and it brings with it heightened senses. So this is sort of like a byproduct of deepening your compassion, is it will naturally open up your senses. It's kind of like being able to smell a greater range of smells, or see a greater range of colors, or feel a greater range of feelings. Your ability to connect with everything around you and face who you truly are is in direct correlation to how deep your compassion goes. The deeper your compassion, the more your senses fine-tune and awaken. This is why a lot more people are becoming more intuitive, more psychic, more seeing. They're able to dive into those deeper parts of them that are providing them with the information through their intuitive, deeper senses. So your inner senses are like microfibers that extend beyond the physical form, absorbing the information of your environment before your brain has the opportunity to fully and consciously digest it for your knowing. But on a subatomic and purely energetic level, you receive the information at warp speed. Your senses, your deeper senses, absorb that information on a subconscious level before interpreting the information into conscious awareness. And the deeper that you are present with yourself, the more that you are open with yourself, which is where compassion leads you, is more openness. So the more open you are, the more you allow for that awareness to rise for you into your conscious state of being. Allowing your senses to lead you instead of follow you will become a dramatic shift in the architecture of the human being. This becomes the states into our being state, shifting away from states of doing. So what does it mean when we say to allow your senses to lead you instead of follow you? When senses, those deep inner senses, follow you, it means that there is a delay between your being and your doing states. It means that your reactivity is what leads you in your experiences instead of those deeper senses, meaning your body's senses pick up information from the environment like it always does. But when you are in a doing state, you do not allow for the processing of that information to be made known to you before your body reacts to it. However, a reaction to the environment or experience is only an artificial outer layer of the experience. It's similar to judging a book by its cover. The deeper information, the juicier stuff, the knowledge of what's actually going on is being received by those deeper inner senses, and those deeper inner senses are trying to communicate it to you, but you are disregarding it or suppressing it in lieu of the emotional reaction that is triggered because of it. So this is when your senses follow you instead of lead you. In other words, your emotional reactions are leading you in this instance. When your inner senses lead you, you understand that there is a delay sometimes between your being and your doing states. It means that you understand the multi-layers of your experience enough to allow space to show you what deeper information is being communicated to you through whatever experience you are in and what your senses are picking up on. This means essentially you are responding to your environment instead of reacting to it. You listen closely to your body's behavior and what's being stimulated through your deeper senses. It means that you are listening to what's happening for you instead of reacting to what is happening to you. You let your body process the information picked up by your deeper senses. And you also understand that sometimes there is a delay between sensing the information and the environment and fully understanding it. So how do we allow our senses to lead us? Your deeper senses will naturally lead you the more that you ground into your heart and deepen your compassion. This is because compassion fine-tunes your sensitivity to your environment. So even if you are sensitive, there are some highly sensitive people who are more closed off because they feel the burden of their sensitivity, so they don't want to open it more. They close themselves off from feeling too much because, again, they feel the burden of the sensitivity. This only means, however, that you are pushing up against your sensitivity, which is essentially a natural state. We are highly sensitive beings. Our experiences have sort of blocked us off from a lot of that sensitivity, and so it feels uncomfortable when we start to open it up. It's like opening up the blinds and letting all of that sunshine into a very dark room. It's blinding. And so we have to understand that the more that we push up against our sensitive nature, the more that we are only resisting. Deeper parts of yourself can be opened. All of that information that you're storing within those deep parts of yourself can be made known to you if you open yourself up enough to lean into your sensitivity and transmute your relationship with your sensitivity from resistance into love. Compassion is a powerful process to open the gates of the inner senses and allow for that sensitive nature to start to shine through. It softens the blow of emotional reaction. So our sensitivity often for many people leads to stronger emotional reactions, right? If they don't understand how the body works. But you can easily shift from having these strong emotional reactions into having stronger and deeper sensations, inner senses, inner feelings, inner knowledge coming through in the experience or the situation or the environment. So this is where compassion comes in, because it softens the blow of emotional reaction, because a compassionate state is a state of understanding. It does not mean that you need to agree with everything you are experiencing, but it does mean that you understand that everything is connected somehow. And if there is something you do not agree with, then you know that it is often correlated to something internally that may be causing a state of resistance. So compassion is a powerful tool to open up your connection to your inner senses and allow for that sensitive nature to be expressed in a different way. Rather than expressing reactivity, your sensitive nature is expressing information. This, of course, does not mean that you are bypassing the emotional reaction. As a human being, emotional reactions are natural. It's natural to have all of these emotional reactions. It's similar to putting your hand on a hot surface and pulling back because it's hot. That is your initial reaction. But what we are saying is that give yourself some space and time to allow for a deeper understanding of whatever it is that you are emotionally reacting to. This will help sort of open up your perception. It will start to open up how you view and how you witness and how you live in the world. It will start to open up how you respond to the world. It will start to open up how you are emotionally connected to the world, not just through reaction, but there are deeper levels to connect to the world. And so this is more about easing through the emotional reaction enough to submerge yourself into something that's much deeper. Allow for the reaction not to be the end all be all, but allow for yourself to move through it like you're moving through waves and deepening into the wave, where you can sink through the emotional reaction and into a deeper sense of the information that was picked up from the environment or from the experience. The more that you do this, the more that your body recognizes that there is more depth to every single situation, every person, every place, everything, every environment, every experience. There is depth. It's not just a surface level experience or a surface level reaction. You can move past the surface and start to live in the depth of who you are as a human being and the experience that you are in. And so, again, the more that you do this, the more that you recognize the depth, the more that you live in the depth of your experience, and the more that you receive the information of the depth of the experience into your conscious awareness. And that changes everything. It changes your connection to life. It changes your relationship with others. It changes your relationship to the environment. It changes how you feel in every situation. It changes how you connect to things in every situation. It changes how you receive information in every situation. And therefore, it changes how you start to create your reality in every situation. Compassion is what allows you to pick up something externally and feel it internally, or decipher it internally. You become one with your environment. You feel the pulse of life within you and through you. Suffering often makes it hard to embrace the fullness of what compassion is really about. Compassion, of course, opens your ability to feel the suffering of others, but we often get caught up in feeling the emotions of the suffering. So many times we cut off our compassion to let go of the suffering. But compassion is so much more than feeling the suffering of the world. Suffering is part of life, yes, but compassion is what makes us feel the flow of life. Compassion is an inhale as much as it is an exhale. So when there is suffering, we know through compassion that there is the opposite of suffering too. It is not only about the suffering, it's about where can we move the suffering into? How can we emit change? How can we redirect the energy of the suffering into the opposite? What can we do about the suffering? How can we heal the suffering? It's about all of this stuff. It encompasses so much more than just feeling the suffering of others. Because as you are feeling it, you are trying to do something about it. So with everything, there is always two sides, right? There is a positive and a negative side. And so that our deeper senses are trying to always communicate to us both the positive and negative side. Is trying to show us the full spectrum of what's going on. It's not just one-sided. And so an important process of understanding that full spectrum, both sides of the coin, if you will, is being able to ease through the initial emotional reaction and soften into it enough where you can drop down into those deeper senses, enough to reveal the entire spectrum, enough to reveal what those two sides are and what the information, what the knowledge, what the answers are in that moment. Compassion bridges those two sides, but we must be willing to move through the discomfort of the suffering, again, the initial reaction, to emerge or submerge into the light, the deeper light of love. The movement from suffering into love is what is defined as grace. Grace navigates our experiences without attachment or judgment. Grace is what grants us the insight into the connections being made in every moment and how to move through the connections so that progress can be both manifested and experienced. The movement from suffering into love is why we came, and compassion is key to this journey. The contraction that suffering causes can make way into an open space of love if we grant it room to grow and not hold on to it in the suffering. Compassion offers you the knowledge of life, that life is not something that can be held onto. And in knowing this, you know that suffering cannot be held onto, nor can love be held onto. But instead, we have the power to move through it. And while we move through it, we are also transmuting what we know of suffering into love and supporting more grace in this world. And this infuses into our knowledge of how we create our own reality. And so making space for suffering to move into love is the biggest thing that you can do with your knowledge and integration of compassion. Holding that space long enough through your state of being, not your state of doing, is not what many are willing to do, because it requires an immense amount of trust and belief in yourself, not anybody else, but in yourself. So not only is compassion something that you hold or a perception that you hold to interpret or decipher your environment, compassion is something that you become through your ability to trust and believe in yourself through the process. And the compassion that you become is the space that you hold to allow all things to grow through you from suffering into love. And that's what came through for this episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all of your support. If you'd like to receive the written transmission of this episode and of past episodes, as well as weekly alignment messages sent straight to your inbox, I have a weekly newsletter. You can sign up for it through the link in the description of this episode. Again, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next episode. oneness, love, and peace be with you.